Okay, so we have the famous Autumn Smith. She's a model. She's into mental health. She's a girl who does everything. So starting off, obviously, you're one of my favorite humans, and we met in high school. But something that I knew I wanted you on my podcast so badly was because of your heart and just the fact that you do care so much about the mental health space. So if we can start there, why don't you tell everyone what you do for your job and kind of give a little disclaimer about, maybe we'll get into some things that could trigger some people depending on what you see in your day to day.
Yeah, well, first of all, you're too kind. And I want to say I'm your number one fan, but like I can't be because I know there's too many other people that would fight
Oh,
me.
stop.
So, but yeah, you're near and dear to my heart, and we have always like somehow had this open and honest conversation and like about mental health and just like well-being for as long as I've really known you. But I've worked in the mental health and substance abuse field, specifically working with trauma for over 5 years now. I've never, not, a therapist. I'm not a social worker. I've always done administrative, like background stuff, but still been client facing. I worked at a treatment center, but now specifically, I'm working at a company where we train mental health professionals, so the social workers and the therapists and the psychologists, on how to work specifically with developmental trauma. So, childhood, complex PTSD, ACEs, all of that.
Oh gosh, that's such a heavy job when 2020 isn't going on. So, what has it been like with just like, even if you're the happiest person in the world, there's no way life today has not affected you in some way. And unfortunately, probably in a negative way. So, have you seen a rise in anxiety with patients that are recovering or new patients coming in?
Yeah, I'm one of those people where 2020 happened and some people went kind of blank with work, or it really slowed down, lost jobs, things like that. In my particular case, my job became busier and crazier than ever before. We've literally, like, we're growing. I won't go into specifics, but like we're growing. And keeping up with that has been a lot of pressure. And a lot of the normal things that you would do to combat uh, extra anxiety and pressure and stressors at work have been taken away because of COVID in 2020. And so, yeah, it's a lot to navigate all at once. Thank God for FaceTime.
Yeah, for real. And what's that like for you? Because I think some of us can go into a job, we do our job, we come home, and then we start our life at home. But for you, it's such a mental toll every single day. Is it ever hard for you to separate? Do you ever find yourself still thinking about that one person that maybe you couldn't get the breakthrough with, or what's that like?
Yeah. Yeah, especially back when I was working at a treatment center that specialized in trauma. I was working like with clients, with people 18 and up who were looking for help or sometimes not looking for help. Um, and yeah, that was taxing, to say the very least. But I learned so much. I learned, where I thought I wanted to be a therapist, be a social worker, something like that. I learned that's actually not what fuels me. What I really enjoy is the background. It's so boring, but what I really enjoy is the background and making processes and systems and communications and things flow seamlessly and easily, because anything from like, okay, I'm having some anxiety, I think I want to work with a therapist maybe biweekly, to needing to check into a like treatment center for an extended period of time. Any of it's scary. Like it's scary, it's difficult to navigate. There's no one to really show you how to do that. So I really enjoy walking people through those processes.
And what do you think it is about the process, the quote unquote boring stuff that you're so drawn to? Is it just making it easier for people to get the help they need if the system is set up as it should be?
Yeah, I think that is the, like, if you were to like go to the core, like what drives you, it is giving the best possible customer service and care. And I also just happen to, enjoy technology and putting it together, like
Always been a hot
SOP.
nerd.
Yeah, like, like organizing paperwork. Like I'm like, I love it. I'll do it. So, yeah. So I happen to enjoy helping others while also like enjoying the really nerdy stuff. So it just came together.
Amazing, because it makes perfect sense, really. We have an example of our government. If the system does not work, then we're all screwed. So you have to have those core elements in place before anyone gets the help they need. But you said before, some people don't want help. So in your position, what do you do how do they even get to you if they don't want help? Is it the family kind of forcing it upon them, or how are they even in front of you if they don't believe they want help at all?
Yeah. So right now I'm just working on the professional side. I'm not working like too closely with clients anymore. It still pops up in my job, but just given the field that I'm in. But when I was in a treatment center, I worked for another company that worked directly with clients. And then of course, Greg, my boyfriend, he works face to face with clients every day. And, yeah, it's usually families coming to I'll say companies, like coming to companies and seeking help, treatment, assistance, guidance, something for their loved one, because I mean, it could be anything from they're literally about to die to they're just non-functioning, like they can't hold down a job, things like that. There's so many different scenarios. And sometimes it's complicated because sometimes the families come with like such love and caring, and other times the families are quite honestly just as sick as the client. So it's a lot to navigate, and you just have to really know how to work with people
So
and toe the line.
how do you turn that negativity off? Say you have a really stressful day and now you come home, you are in a serious relationship, you don't want to take that stress into your personal life. So what do you do to get yourself in that good space again?
Um, I am more of like a like physically doing things. So I am like intense gardener. I don't think you even understand how intense I am with my plants,
I
but
remember
I'm an
the picture and I knew that my sister would be really impressed by it because she loves that too. But there is a calming about it, I can see.
yes, it's like this big of a part of it of how much I do. So I do a lot of gardening, indoor, outdoor, vegetable gardening, all of that. I
It's funny,
with
not to cut you off, but
what?
even in your relaxation, you're still caring and nurturing, even if it's a plant and not a living human. It's just such a part of you that like this is relaxing for you, but ultimately it's still what some might find, and by some I mean me, would find a responsibility.
that's so, that's so sweet. I don't think of it like that. I think of it as like I have trouble sometimes stopping and just like being um still. Uh and I kind of I don't really have a balance. I am either like all or nothing. So if I do stop, like you won't find me doing a damn thing for like 24 hours.
That's good though. That also means that you listen to yourself when you need a mental break, because it's tough. Like sometimes, like even today, for whatever reason, I just wasn't like in the best mood, and I have to have a lot of self check-ins by saying you too. To have a lot of self.
Yeah, yeah,
You're lucky. Life is great, but then also like, no, but you're allowed to feel shitty too, and it's okay. Acknowledge it, but just like I don't know, find that balance of recognizing the feeling, but knowing that you do have it better than a lot of people and to push forward. But like you have such a heavy job to deal with. It's so mentally taxing. I know you have to obviously keep some patient secrecy, but is there anything you can tell about like a specific day that you just will never forget for whatever reason?
Well, back when I worked in the treatment center, I don't know why, and you can ask anyone who does the job that I do. There's just certain people that you connect with more than others, and I was on the front end of like getting people in. So once they were in, I was kind of out of the picture, and they're doing their thing once they're there. But I had one client come back to me and just specifically wanted to talk to me about some frustrations and struggles and things like that. And I asked them, I asked them in like not a joking way, but like, let me think of something off the top of my head that's productive and like, will help them. And I was like, my office needs artwork. Will you like paint something for me? And that like they ended up making like four small like 6x6 paintings that were part, it's like a collage of like one solid piece of artwork, but like that's still hanging in my house to this
Yeah.
day. So, there's things like that really stand out and mean a lot. And there's certain people that you just have a connection with and couldn't tell you why. They have completely different walks of life than I do. Um, but yeah, yeah. So and I'm not saying that like all those people I had a connection with like turned out a-okay either. It's just a part of the process.
I think that's a really healthy mindset to have, because I think when you get into that I have to fix everyone mentality, I think that's when it does become debilitating on you, because just like you said, it's a part of the process that you have a job to do. And yes, hopefully you do create relationships with these people in the process, but you can't put that responsibility to completely fix someone's life. I think at the end of the day, the person has to want it. They have to want to get better. They could have the best resources in the world, but if they don't want it, it'll never be enough. So I'm happy to hear that you can separate that. What are some of
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
what are some of the best parts? Pretty generic question, but what would you say is the best part of what you do, but then also the worst part of what you do?
Um, Best part is kind of what I was saying earlier. Whenever you make those special connections with people, and you can see, especially whether I'm working with like a professional or a client, whenever you can literally like feel, hear, see a sigh of relief, like, oh my God, you figured that out. Like it all makes sense now. Like I'm so much more comfortable now. Like, thank you for that. That's like that's my fuel. I love it. And a really hard part is, and this kind of like is a personal thing for me. I don't do well with confrontation. I don't like it. I don't like, I don't like upsetting people. And inevitably, in the customer service field, I just so happen to be in the mental health customer service field. You're going to upset people.
Yeah.
And that can
And
be,
customer service at restaurants, people get crazy. So I can only imagine.
yeah. So it's just such a tricky walk you're taking, because you have HIPAA and legalities and contracts and privacy notices and non-disclosures. And so it can get really messy at times. And yeah, I don't like upsetting people. So I yeah, I don't like it whenever someone's upset with me in the workplace or in life. It doesn't matter.
I'm the same. If someone's mad at me, I can't sleep at night. It sucks. I'm like all up in my head. I hate it so much. I know that these patients come in for help, but on the flip side, have you learned anything from the patients?
Oh, constantly. Yeah, no, I've learned so much about myself since entering this field. Like I started with my own trauma, which is not of my choosing. But I thought by the time I was 18, 20, whatever, I had a good understanding of it. And it's amazing how much your mind like still expands and learns, and you like get a little hippie with it, like your soul grows and understands from that. And yeah, and that's still a process. I'm still learning so much just from simply being around the work. It's very rewarding for sure.
Well, you were saying before that one of your favorite parts of the job is when someone has that connection and they realize why their behavior is a certain way. And it's kind of the same for us, where it is cool to have those breakthroughs. And even if it's not something you love to discover, it's still such a step forward because you have to recognize it if you want to change it, right? So I think that, not to be all hippie
Yeah.
with it either, but like those are the moments where I personally feel like I'm alive. When I stop learning and growing, then that sounds scary to me because it seems like there's nothing left. You know what I mean? Like we want to be growing and changing, and evolving to
It's
what we're
terrifying.
supposed to see about
It's
ourselves.
terrifying not to. Yeah, yeah, I'm right there with you. It's very terrifying. And one thing Greg and I say is, there's your like if you're going to grow and evolve, it's going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to be uncomfortable. And that, yeah.
You have to make that choice. Do I want to stay in a comfortable space and be
Mhm.
regretful ultimately at the end of my life, or do I want to make all the mistakes possible? And honestly, I'm starting to really get flexible with what is a mistake, because I think if you get a positive outcome, was it a mistake, or did we just happen to view it that way because that's all we knew at the time? It's really this introspective
Yep.
game we play. But you and I have always been really open about mental health. And I do love that I'm seeing what seems like the unfortunate situations of 2020 has brought the conversation about mental health up front more than I feel like I've ever seen it. Why do you think it is so
Mhm.
important that it's not something that we just keep to ourselves? Why is it important to share these kind of things?
I mean, oh, there's so many answers that instantly just like flooded across my mind. But it's, okay, I'll say one thing that I think is specific to this time period is the instant connection that we can have with people in terms of cell phones, internets, computer, social media, all of those things. That is like what that is doing to our mental health is we don't even know yet. Like the research can't even be out there, the data can't even be out there to know what that does to a human because it happens so quickly and so rapidly. And so I think that with this instant connection and oversharing in some ways of life, um that I think part of just making that happen, that I think, what I don't want to say like what comes with it like it's a bad thing, but what comes with it is more open and honest discussions about mental health, and just being real about it, because things are so much more in our face than they've ever been before in history. And we can't shell up and just pretend things aren't happening or we're not feeling ways, because that's just gonna implode. It's completely impossible. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I social media I definitely think has its really positive sides, but then it does have the negative sides for sure. And yeah, I love that you can turn to podcasts now, you can turn to TED Talks and Instagram Reels, videos, whatever, to really connect with people. But I feel like balance is my word for everything. That I have had to remove myself from group chats, and I've had to say I haven't done this in a while, but I need to have another social media blackout day where I'll like write into my planner that I'm just not checking anything on my phone, because I find myself getting like, like so caught in my throat because I'm trying to like cook dinner, but then I need to text this person back and write back to this. And I get so overwhelmed over something that I'm supposed to enjoy, but I start to become the prisoner of it. So I think that's constantly something I'm working through too. But I do have to let you go soon. But I do always love to ask people about resources. So what do you turn to? I know you like to read, but as far as like any authors or podcasts, what really speaks to you and helps you when you're just like, damn, I need a break or an escape?
Man, it's that action thing. I absolutely love to read, and I do listen to podcasts constantly. To be really honest, what gets me out of my mindset is like murder mystery and thrillers and like true crime. So that's a lot of what I've been reading and listening to. Um, but in terms of like what I find to be meditative and just helpful, I I have my gardening. Cooking is something that is incredibly healing in my opinion.
I remember
I'm an old lady, I
you
cross stitch.
cooking. Oh no, I think we froze a little bit.